Welcome back in, everybody, to another edition of the Postgame Pod here on the Auburn Undercover podcast. Nathan King, joined here by Patrick Bingham in parts unknown of Rupp Arena. It's also connected to like a city convention center thing, and so we were going to try to find a nice backdrop for you guys with some fans and all that good stuff, but it's really cold outside, and Patrick didn't like the lighting.
Freeze warning.
So we're, there's a bit of it's hailing apparently. It's just not good. I almost got blown over by wind yesterday walking back to the hotel. Anywho, Auburn is a winner here on the first day of the NCAA tournament, back at Rupp Arena, of course, where they play the 16 seed Alabama State. Of course, the Hornets advanced to today by way of a thrilling win in Dayton over St. Francis. Auburn, the number 1 overall seed. And Patrick, I think, first glance, if you were, obviously everybody paying attention to March Madness today, if you didn't watch this game and you're just scrolling through, you'd probably see 20-point win. Maybe didn't play their best game, but Auburn took care of business. I think all that is true.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you need to look a little deeper, and as we'll talk about, Auburn very, very displeased. Coaches, multiple coaches, Bruce Pearl and Stephen Pearl, pretty much every single player, very, very displeased with their effort here today. I think because, Patrick, we've been hearing so much about how this team is ready for a reset button, and they're pissed off with how the season ended. And then there were really a bunch of lulls in this game where they certainly did not look like the number 1 overall seed, and they know that kind of performance is not going to cut it Saturday against a Creighton team that looked phenomenal earlier today.
Yeah, I mean, Alabama State got it to a 1-point game with about a minute and change left before the half, and it was just kind of one of those things where it was like, it just kind of almost felt lethargic, and maybe that's because that first game, it was just kind of, Creighton played really well, and the Louisville fans were, really loud, and it was packed, and so then it was kind of a more empty arena, and it was just kind of like, oh, Auburn's playing this team that in theory they could play in their non-conference, and it, probably wouldn't be that big of a deal. And it just kind of, translated onto the court, and I almost wonder if, the arena that, got into it for Alabama State when it was that 1-point game almost helped to wake Auburn up a little bit. And for as much as they let it be a 1-point game, they did go on, a 24-7-ish run.
Correct.
From the end of the half and then started the second half. So, they made up for it, but at the same time, it was you do that against Creighton on Saturday or another really good team, you're not going to be able to come back.
Correct.
And so, yeah.
I think that's a good point by you that, everything's on the same playing field here. Alabama State making a run and you going on a 9-0 run in 73 seconds before halftime for Auburn. That is important for them to have that response. I completely agree with you. And that is what Janai said after the game. Janai Broom said that, he thought it was just kind of an empty gym. Empty gym was the word that he used. He said there wasn't a lot of buzz, and Auburn kind of needed to create their own energy. We've seen them do that so well. They've been so good on the road, so good on neutral sites this year. We've talked about it, you and I have talked about before, they're better there than they have been in Neville, really, for the most part of the season. But yeah, not necessarily a big crowd today. You would expect more Auburn fans to now come up for Saturday's game, and there was a good contingency of Creighton fans.
Yes.
And credit to them for making some noise against just a sea of red in that first game. But Bruce Pearl talked about it after the game. He said, "Look, we played better against Yale when they lost that game than they did against Alabama State today." Valuing possessions was something he kept coming back to over and over again, both on offense and on defense. Shot selection, I think, was just kind of not where Auburn wanted it to be. Alabama State, to their credit, and look, Alabama State played I thought Alabama State played pretty well in this game. Now, in the second half, it seemed like they ran out of gas, didn't shoot the ball well. But Amar Knox was really, really good for them. They turned it on when they needed to, went into kind of a pressure zone defense that made things difficult for Auburn. But Auburn was kind of saying, look, no excuse. They should have been ready for that. And like you said, just sort of a lethargic performance. Stephen Pearl said after the game on the radio, he called out Janai Broom and Chad Baker-Mazara by name and said, it's not going to cut it from those guys. He called them Auburn's 2 best players, and it's not going to cut it. And to be a fly on the wall at tomorrow's practice would be incredible. But Patrick, we've been hearing about this team needing a wake-up call for so long, and they didn't go out there and show it today. Maybe this is the one that they need, but that leash keeps getting longer. Yes. At what point is it going to snap back on you, and it's all going to be over? It could be Saturday.
Yeah, and you talked about valuing possessions, and I think the quote that stuck out to me the most was, we were talking to Dylan Cardwell, and he was like, we had a big size advantage over these guys. And the literal quote was we were just jacking up threes. And, obviously Miles, and we'll talk about him, he was 7 for 15 from deep in Rupp Arena. Again, he's doing great. But the rest of the team was 4 for 20. And it's that's not gonna win you many games.
Yeah.
And so I just think it, as you said, it's that valuing possessions, and it's your best players playing their best in this month. And we saw bounce back games for Chaney and Tahad.
Exactly.
And so like there are positives.
Oh, for sure.
But it's like it very much felt lethargic, and I
Sure.
think that's the thing I just kind of keep coming back to.
It's just, I think it's all contextual, for
Yes.
who this team is. If this team had been not wanting to play at this level, or was not the number one overall seed, or had not been talking about, hey, let's get back to a level where we were early in the season, that's literally what they said yesterday, then maybe this would have been different. But they came out and played really like they've been playing the last few games, just kind of seeming like they're hogtied a little bit, like kind of seeming like it's there's something about them that is just holding them back a little bit. And Bruce Pearl talked about it after the game. I think now he still wouldn't hit the panic button like he talked about after Tennessee. I don't think he's panicking, but no longer is this team downplaying that sort of thing. Bruce Pearl especially after the game saying, look, I don't know whether it started, this is Bruce saying this, he said, I don't know whether it started Texas A&M, I don't know if, you're fine. I don't know whether it started at Texas A&M. I don't know whether it started with the loss to Alabama. You trying to pinpoint when this happened, but obviously this team has not been at a level that they were the last time they were in Rupp Arena when they played Kentucky. Yeah. And so, you mentioned Miles Kelly. That's like you said, there were a lot of positives in a 20-point win. Miles Kelly goes for 23 points. He has now had, 16 3-pointers in 2 games at Rupp Arena. If that continues into Saturday, that'll be great. Chaney Johnson. He was just so snake-bitten on those inside shots the last several games.
Since the start of March.
Yes, because he had against Kentucky as well. He shoots, I don't know if you have his shooting percentage in this game. He was 5 of 9 from the floor. One of those are 3, so he's 5 of 8 from 3-point range, 13.7 rebounds. Todd Pettiford, 16 points, and 5 assists. And so decent stuff all around for Auburn in this one. And look, their defense, I think, was what won them the day. In the second half, they got more aggressive, and Dylan Cardwell kind of grabbed everybody and brought them together right before the second half started. And we were talking to players and Bruce about it after the game, and they said, he just delivered the message of what we're doing right now is not good enough. It was good enough in the second half. I thought Auburn's effort in the second half was really good, but they know it's got to be better for a full 40 minutes on Saturday, because you and I both saw that Creighton team today. That's a team that's playing really, really well. That's a team that went out and got a really big win. Everything was stacked against them. You and I were commenting, that is the loudest, third or fourth loudest crowd I've heard this season, period, regardless of venue. And it was at a neutral site. You knew Louisville fans were going to do that. They showed out, but they got sent packing pretty quickly. 46% from 3, Creighton, in that game. Really, really impressive performances across the board. And Auburn's obviously going to need to be much sharper on Saturday.
Yeah, and I think about, Dylan, I guess going back to this, of him talking about Alabama State isn't as tall, and so they can take advantage of that. Creighton, that's not really the game for them. And I think the thing that I noticed was when Auburn was playing well to start the game, they had doubled up rebounds. And then once Alabama State had gotten into that 1-point game, it was dead even again. Auburn ends plus 10, but it's I think that just goes back to the word that they kept saying was effort. Of they just feel like they're not giving enough effort against this team. And it's they're able to do enough. They're talented enough to just go beat Alabama State.
Yeah.
But it's from here on out, as you said with that Creighton team, it's just that's not going to be the case.
Yeah, we're finally at the point where, and I think everybody knew this, we talked about leading up to it, you could play a B minus, C plus. This was probably in total a C plus game for Auburn, C to C plus game for Auburn, and you win by 20. We knew that was capable of being the case in this one. What do you have to... Creighton, B plus at a minimum, probably. Now, I don't think Creighton's going to shoot 46% from 3. I think Auburn is much better equipped defensively to be able to handle them. I think Denver Jones is going to have a big task in Stephen Ashworth. But yeah, you mentioned the matchup, and we'll get into it tomorrow. We'll be back here at Rupp Arena talking to players and previewing on, I guess that's on Friday. But, this is one of the best big men matchups you could possibly ask for. Both of these guys All-Americans. Janai Broome was obviously first-team All-American, National Player of the Year. Ryan Kalkbrenner is a second-team All-American, 4-time Defensive Player of the Year in the Big East. So that'll certainly get
him
it done.
and Patrick Ewing are the only two to ever do that.
That is absurd. So yeah, Auburn's got a lot. It certainly has their hands full on Friday, and now the question is, on Saturday. As we stand here today, right now recording. We don't know the tip time. The games are still going on. It's the second half of Wofford, Tennessee is a couple floors up, I guess, going on right now. And then Utah State and UCLA still have to play. So I think everything has to get finalized before they can flip to what Saturday sessions are going to be in and figure out the game time. So we shall see, but we know it's going to be number 1 overall seed Auburn against the 9 seed Creighton. We talked about this all week. The Louisville storyline was everything. It was like, wow, I can't believe they got that draw. I can't believe Louisville's going to be, probably playing Auburn in Kentucky. I wouldn't say this is a break for Auburn because I picked Creighton to win that game.
Yeah, I think they would have matched up better against Louisville. I
was not very impressed with Louisville. I don't think, and as we saw today with the ACC, like maybe really good ACC teams just didn't really matter. Like that league was terrible. Now North Carolina, whatever, probably not apples to apples, but yeah, I think they were a better matchup against Louisville. But I sort of think it was a lot of mental gymnastics to say that like, oh, Auburn wanted to see Louisville because they played better on the road and all that kind of stuff. It's like, I don't think there's any reality where you wanted to go against 9,000 fans. I mean, this was a home game today. It was completely, and like don't get it twisted. Now, Creighton had a lot of fans. And so I think you'll get, again, on Saturday into that more neutral floor type of game. You just have to hope for Auburn that they got the juices flowing today, because that's what Janai Broom said. He's like, it's kind of a dead gym. And he said, Janai kind of turned glass half full and said, I don't know if you're over there for that, like saying like, well, maybe it was good to work out the wrinkles, in a game like this. First game playing in 5 or 6 days, kind of work things out, and then get back on the floor on Saturday. And so Auburn has to hope that's the case. And again, time is sort of running out on this team to play the kind of game that they want to.
Yeah, I mean, and Dylan, I feel like he's been saying it the last several games, just like as he's done the interviews of like, look, at this point, it's win or go home. It's win or the season's over. Yeah. And it's like you could do the like narrative of like, oh, well, Janai and Chad got called out, so they're going to come out and play great, and Auburn's going to be mad that they didn't play as well. But then it's also like, based off what we've seen the last couple of weeks, does that just continue on? Yeah. And so we really don't know, and I think that's what's going to make Saturday so fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, it's if you were Auburn and you came out today and you just had sort of a sweeping, dominant performance, again, some of this stuff feels silly when they won by 20, and I really do think they played well for a lot of this game. You can't. Yes. Alabama State came back because Auburn built a 13-point lead. Auburn played well at the beginning. Miles Kelly shot the ball well. I think they played well for a lot of the second half. But it was the fact that lull, mainly that lull in the first half, a couple things in the second half, was reminiscent of what you've come to expect. Mm-hmm. And the fact that Bruce Pearl gets up after the game and says, this has become a theme. I don't know when to trace it back to, but we've got effort issues right now. So it's the fact that you were able to relate to so many of these things. If it was just a new problem, you'd be like, well, we haven't done that all season. But it's been, like you said, the last few games. And so Auburn's still looking to play its A game now and hoping that this stretch here at the end of the season, like Bruce Pearl said, he said, this is a bad time to be doing this. He was like, we're not playing as well as we were a month ago, and this is the worst possible time. It's put up or shut up Saturday for a trip to the Sweet 16. Auburn obviously working to get back to the second weekend for only the second time under Bruce Pearl, first time since 2019. Auburn takes down Alabama State 83-63 here in Lexington, Kentucky. Like I said, we'll be back tomorrow. I'm going to have all kinds of stuff at auburnundercover.com. Might have a video talking about, we'll have interviews in the locker room, but we'll have a video probably talking about the matchups because we'll get to talk to Creighton as well. And then at a currently TBA time on Saturday, they will take on the number 9 seed Blue Jays. And so for Patrick Bingham, I'm Nathan King. Thank you guys so much for joining us today on the Postgame Pod. We will talk to y'all soon.
Time for ice cream.